This Aardvark Gadget tutorial is about how to use AV standard Grabbable to make Gadget Grabbables. Gadget Grabbables are the top level thing that lets you move a gadget around that many gadgets use to allow the user to attach them to their hands or put them in the world or otherwise interact with the gadget. Gadgets are not required to have a gadget grabbable, but if they do, it gives the user a lot of handles that they can use to interact with those gadgets. We're going to use the AV standard grabbable React component, and of these properties that are specified here, the only one that's required is style, and we're going to set our style to grabbable style.gadget because that's what makes the grabbable be a gadget grabbable. The other one that's important to talk about here up front is remote interface locks. We're not going to get into any detail about this in this tutorial. There will be a future tutorial on making multi-user gadgets, but this is how you enable that. If your gadget grabbable has anything for remote interface locks, including an empty list or any actual content in that list, then it will be a gadget that is automatically created when the user who owns the gadget is in a room with another user. For now, we'll just make an empty list, and that will cause us to be multi-user. Down the road, we'll get into exactly how to do more sophisticated things there. Grabbables essentially have an appearance. The simplest way to make an appearance is to just specify the URI of a model, and there are also a couple of parameters that can be used to tweak the way that the model appears. Before we change this gadget, let's go look at what it looks like in VR. So here's our gadget. We have a model of a rocket ship floating just above a pink cube. You've seen this in other tutorials. Now we're just explaining a little bit more about what we're actually seeing. So first, let's try changing that cube. Grabbables can set the color of their model, can colorize their model in a bunch of different ways. And pretty much everywhere where a color is accepted in Aardvark, it can be specified in 3 different ways. The first is with a color name, as we see here. This could be any CSS color name. The second is with a CSS style Xcode for what the color is, which is what we'll demonstrate here. The third is actually you can specify a AV color object, which is just RGB in an object, and those are 0 to 1 values. So if you happen to have the color numerically and you don't want to convert it to a hex code string, then you can just use the numbers in an object. Now let's see what this new color looks like in VR. You can see that our gadget is now a green cube instead of a pink cube. By using the model scale, and the model URL, you can come up with a wide variety of different appearances for your grabbable. If these are not enough for you, obviously you can change the model itself, change the texture, change the shape, and provide a different GLTF model. Or there's also another property that I won't get into in this tutorial called appearance, where you can specify an entire Aardvark scene graph as your appearance, and then that would be used as your grabbable volume. If you do that, you also need to provide a volume. So take a look at those in the documentation, and they may be useful to you. Now that we've showed you how to customize a model, let's look at a couple of other options on the grabbable. The next thing I want to explain is the gravity aligned property. Most of the time a gadget wants to rotate freely as you move it around, but occasionally a gadget wants to stay aligned with the floor so that it only rotates around the y-axis. An example of this would be the whiteboard, where it's much easier to write on if it's upright and if it's aligned with the floor. We can use the gravity aligned grabbable field to cause this to happen. Let's set this to true, save our gadget, and then go back and look and see what it looks like in VR. Here's my gadget again. Now if I grab it and move it around, you'll see that no matter how I rotate my hand, the rocket always points up. If you have a gadget that needs to be aligned with the floor, either horizontally or vertically, because you can put a transform inside of this, then a gravity line grabbable may be the right solution for that. All right, there's one last field on AV standard grabbable that I want to explain in the context of gadget grabbables. We've set the gravity alignment back to false, and now we're going to change show children. Show children by default is the value that we have here, show grabbable children.always. What this means is that no matter what state the grabbable is in, whether it's being picked up and moved around or not, the children of that grabbable object will be shown. That's why we see the rocket ship when the gadget is visible. Sometimes that's not what you want. Sometimes you want the gadget to change its appearance and show more or less information when it's being moved around. And we do that with show children dot only when grabbed. As you can see, there's another option here for only when not grabbed, which in different circumstances you might want to use that instead. In this case, we'll just demonstrate only when grabbed so you can see what it looks like, and then we'll leave only when not grabbed as an exercise to the reader. We'll make that change, save our gadget, and then go back and look at it in VR. So you can see me grabbing the grabbable here, and it looks just the same as it did before. The rocket ship is attached to my hand. The difference comes when I let go of it. So if I'm not grabbing it, then the rocket ship disappears, the actual grabbable model itself stays. And we can put whatever contents we want under the grabbable, and they'll all just disappear. And then obviously show only when not grabbed would be the opposite of that. So it would show now, and then it would disappear when I grab it. Those are gadget grabbables. Almost every gadget will use a gadget grabbable. So this is something that you'll want to experiment with your own gadgets and figure out exactly what the handle should look like and what the appearance should look like. If you have any comments about this or any of the other tutorials, please leave us comments below. And if you have things that you'd like to see in future tutorials, please let us know that also. Thank you.